All right, welcome to the USS MIDWATCH. My name is Rafael Guzman.
And I'm Brandon Taylor.
And I'm Tarr.
All right, welcome. So when did you join the Navy?
So I joined the Navy February 10th, 2004. I depped in on Valentine's Day the year before. So I was a junior in high school when I actually depped in. I left, and I'm from Wyoming originally, so I went up to Billings, Montana. You don't ever go to Billings, Montana unless you're doing like special shopping and shit like that. So I got a call from my girlfriend on February 14th, 2003, like, hey, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you're not here. Like, where are you? Like, oh, I'm coming back from Billings. I didn't tell her why I was coming back from Billings. But she, like, immediately thought, like, oh, he's getting me something good. So I, like, got to her house afterwards, and it was probably, like, 5, 6 o'clock at night when I got there. She's like, what'd you get me from Billings? And I was like, I joined the Navy.
Yay! It's not what you wanted, huh?
Okay.
You got her a blanket of
But yeah, that's right. I served her a blanket of fruit. She didn't even know it yet. February 10th, 2004 is actually my mom's birthday when I left. So everyone thinks that I'm an asshole for leaving on my mom's birthday. My mom, super proud of me when I told her that I was joining the Navy, because obviously I was going to actually do something with my life. I wasn't going to stick around in Wyoming, and so she was pretty happy about it. But
Awesome. How old were you whenever you joined?
so when I left for the Navy, I had been 18 for just a couple months. So I turned 18 in November and then left in February. So I graduated early from high school so that I could leave for the Navy. My best friend at the time, he went to the Navy recruiter without telling me. He joined up for the Navy, and then came home that night. We're drinking a couple beers, and yes, we're underage drinking, and that's fine because I'm not underage anymore. Yeah, but there's not a lot to do in Wyoming, so we were drinking a few beers, and I was like, where were you all day? He's like, I joined the Navy. Like, it's just like that. Like, so he was like, yeah, you should join with me. Like, that sounds like a great idea, because I think I'm gonna die in college, right?
And then here you are.
Yeah, if no one's gonna be there to tell me what I should do, when I should be there, and all that stuff. So went to the Navy recruiter and signed up. I was originally gonna be a CB. I'm probably the dumbest nuke you'll ever meet. And I know the EDMC's like sitting over there. Brian's like, no, not really. Like, I guarantee he got a higher ASVAB score than I did. I actually had to do a special class after I got done with boot camp. I had to stay at RTC for a couple weeks because my ASVAB score was so bad that I had to go to a special class to be a nuke. So, yeah.
So how was A school?
A school was fine because I grew up on the ranch, right? Like, being a mechanic isn't that big a deal. And math, I'm fine with. Math, I was always good with and never had to try hard at math. It's the English part that really messes with me. So A school was fine. And actually, when I was in A school, one of my instructors is actually the Naval Reactors CMC now. Brandon Bush, Matthew Bush. He was my ME instructor when I was going through A school. But A school was fine. Didn't have to work hard at that. Power school was the part that really kicked me in the butt. So they don't tell you that when you're signing up to be a nuke, that you're going to have like 2 years of school, even when your recruiter's a 19-year nuke sub-ET. So, yeah. He left a few details out, but...
So what does a sonar tech do in power school, since I'm going there in a couple months?
Hold on. I know you guys, like, have been smoking and all that stuff, so... I have this, and I'm going to leave this right here, because this is one of the things I keep in my shop. And I also brought this for you. And for you, if you want one.
I'll do a little sample.
A little sample. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I got this, and then I got this. This is something that one of my guys actually bought me as a going-away present. He left.
Are these the same whiskeys?
No.
No? Okay.
No. This is the better one, and I'm going to give you guys the better one. So, At least just a little sampler.
That's good.
Okay.
Keep this, right?
What?
So
I'm
keep this,
taking the
right?
cup back. You can keep the whiskey.
Pretty good.
I like it.
Break up the monotony, right?
All right,
Midwatch is informal. You gotta be informal.
no, I get it.
All right.
So
What was
obviously,
it?
I got orders from Power School.
Right.
What is a sonar tech going to do there?
Not work. Like,
So three
so
Ps?
there's three pathways that you could take really. You're either gonna go there and be one of the MAs, in which case, that's probably like the worst possible thing you could have. Because depending on what shift you get there, right, you might have to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and I mean you'll be gone by noon, but it's So you're either gonna do security. You're either going to do first lieutenant, or the last possibility is the BEQs, right? So you're either going to go there and have to wear a Kevlar vest and a weapon for the rest of the time that you're there, which I highly doubt that that's what they're going to have you do. Normally that's like a second, third class sonar techs that show up. They go to that. Or you're going to be in charge of first lieutenant. So you're going to be in charge of the grounds crew and stuff like that. It's not because of what you're doing. Or you're going to have a BEQ that you're in charge of. So you'll be one of the barracks petty officers
Barracks
that's
guy, there you
in
go.
charge of making sure that the
Building manager.
Yeah, which is just
basically.
garbage because all you're going to do, like, there's a thing that says, like, my fridge is broken, my toilet's clogged, and that's all you're going to deal with for the next 3 years is that. So. But it's a nice place. Like, Charleston's awesome. The traffic sucks, but as long as you don't mind traffic, everything else is fine.
I'm from
Lots of
LA.
stuff.
I'm used to it.
There you go.
He's from LA.
LA.
LA. Everything's better in LA.
LA. So, what all boats have you served on?
So my first boat was the City of Corpus Christi out of Guam. So I grew up Guam tough, and I didn't really know what that meant until I got to my first shore duty. But then after that, I went to the Jimmy Carter, and I was on the Jimmy Carter for 5 years, and then now serving on board the Maryland with you guys. So
What shore duties have you been on?
I've only been an instructor. So after my time on the City of, I went to Prototype in New York, which was garbage. I absolutely the actual job itself was great. I loved being an instructor. I still love teaching. What's that?
It was the area.
Yeah, the area. Like, it's terrible. To go from Guam to New York, like, I don't think you could make a bigger climate shift. So, like, I went from being, like, the Islander lifestyle, right? Every time I left, it was board shorts, tank top, flip-flops, to then going to New York where I had to completely rearrange my outfits. Like, I had to actually buy jackets, which was miserable. And then we bought a house while we were there, so that was
That's
a
a
giant
mistake.
mistake. But I grew up in Wyoming where it snows and it's not that big a deal. Like, you just walk on top of the snow, you drive on top of the snow. Like, you don't really do anything with the snow. But in New York, overnight, you'll get 18 inches of snow, and then you wake up the next morning and you got to shovel your driveway and your sidewalk and, like, all that. And that is absolutely miserable. So I didn't know that the snow was different. Like, snow in Wyoming, Colorado, it's very light, it's fluffy, it's like Christmas, right? And
Over
then
here,
snow in the Northeast is
ice.
like death.
It's ice.
It's wet, it's heavy, and everything about it is just miserable. So, like, you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh man, it's snowing, and now I get to drive to work. But before that, I get to spend 3 hours shoveling snow. Yeah, so that's where, like, I will never live anywhere cold again because of New York. But then second shore duty was down in Charleston. I got to go to the Crystal Palace. Originally, I was supposed to be a detailer in Millington, Tennessee, but there was a snafu with the yeoman sending off the screener package and everything. So I got back from an underway, and the detailer was like, well, you're not going to come and relieve me. You're going to go down to power school and do that whole thing, which was amazing. Made chief there, so got to do a lot of stuff in Charleston that pretty much reinvigorated my naval career. Like, I was in a pretty low spot before that, so I'm very thankful for the second shore duty that I had.
That's fair.
What's the longest underway you've ever been on?
So I was never the guy that kept track of miles steamed or days underway or any of that stuff. So I don't know if this number is exactly correct, but I'm sure that someone watching this was on the boat with me at the time, and they'll probably chime in and say the exact number, but it was somewhere near 155 days just straight underway from port to port. And in that, we spent 133 without ventilating. So we were underwater that entire time. We never ventilated. We never came up to the surface. It was just that entire time. So the other day I was flipping through Facebook and something popped up that said that there's a professor somewhere going for a world record days underwater and I just laughed. Like whatever, dude.
He
You're
spent
under there,
22
you got
days.
all sorts of crazy amenities. You probably got a private chef and all this stuff. That's nothing compared to what we do.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I saw that story. I was like,
Now,
Yeah, world record, my butt.
off topic, in the Maldives, they have an underwater hotel that you have to take a scuba diving course and before you can actually go stay at your room. And they will scuba dive pizzas out to you. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
down. I'm down.
Oh, man. I've been looking at it. Oh, I'll definitely go.
Yeah, see, that'd be different. Everyone always asks, hey, if you're going out on a cruise, why would you ever go on a cruise? You're in the Navy. It's different. It's different. It's so different.
Oh, man. So, with all this being said, is there any advice that you would give to a brand new sailor, someone joining right into boot camp, right? Any advice you would give to them?
I'll give anyone going to boot camp, or if you're about to leave for boot camp, I'll give you the same advice that was given to me. Keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, do what they tell you, and if you get out of boot camp and your RDC doesn't know your name, then you won. Right, you did it right. That's what I was told before I went to boot camp, and that was my game plan going in. And then day 2 of P days, right? P days is the acclimation, right? You guys will look forward to it. But day 2 of P days, my RDC came out and was asking some question about why the RPOC outranked us technically, because if you guys remember, the RPOC were the anchor or whatever on one side, and I didn't even raise my hand. I was like, because he's a recruit chief petty officer or whatever it was, and my RDC was like, was that you? Shit. Yep.
Oh, I'm getting
You're
fired.
my port watch. And I was like, well, there it goes. But I will say I was the only, in my entire division, Division 144, I was the only recruit petty officer that never got fired. Right? The RPOC got fired. The AROC got fired. Starboard watch got fired. All the section leaders got fired. Port watch never got fired. Never got fired.
Oh, God, I never got fired.
all right, so what's the biggest difference you've seen since you joined?
Biggest difference that I've seen since I joined. So I had, I'm trying to say this without there's less in the Navy, right? When I first got in, the leadership was garbage. There was a lot of people that actually knew their jobs. I will say that, I'm not gonna sell them short and say they didn't know what they were doing as far as the technical aspects, but the leadership has come miles since I first joined the Navy. There were a lot of chiefs and a lot of officers when I first joined the Navy that I used as inspiration to not be like as I advanced throughout my career and got into different situations, a lot of the stuff that I used was like, all right, I'm not going to be like that person. So that's what I would say is just the way that we've moved as a Navy is by and large in a better direction because of the leaderships the people we have in leadership positions. And I won't say like by and large it's better because there are still assholes out there. There are still people out there that don't do it the right way. But I think a larger percentage of the people that we have in higher up positions are more in tune with their sailors. Like they actually understand that if we take care of the sailors, then the Navy will be a better place, kind of thing.
Essentially, you take care of them, they take care of you, type of thing.
And that's exactly what it should be.
Would you take and just describe your job for someone who doesn't have any clue about what kind of things going on a submarine, no clue about what you do?
I think my dad probably put it best. I told my dad, hey, I'm going to go be a nuke. And he said, oh, you're going to clean toilets. And I said, absolutely not, Dad. I'm a nuke. I'm going to go be in charge of a nuclear engine room on a submarine. And he was like, and you're going to clean toilets.
So you're going to clean toilets. Yes.
So, yeah, like there's a large aspect of what we do is maintaining the boat and everything. But for anyone who's interested in joining the nuclear program, right, like you're a plumber, but you learn about nuclear power while you're doing it. So like there's different aspects about it that are cool. But if you like doing things with your hands, right? Like I get to do a lot of stuff mechanically that well, I don't anymore, but I used to be able to. But the best part about our job, the best part about my job, honestly, is the damage control aspect, right? And I don't think that's a thing that a lot of people in the Navy really get to do, like us on submarines, right? When we leave, it's just us, right? So you guys know this because you're sonar techs, right? Sonar and machinery division are the firefighters of the boat, right? Like when a casualty happens, if there's a fire, we're the ones that get to put on the suits and we're the ones that actually get to fight the fires. Everybody else has their piece of the puzzle, but we're the MVPs. Yeah. We're the ones that get to actually do this stuff. And that's the coolest part for me. That was always the coolest part for me is putting on the FFE, doing the damage control. Because even if it's flooding or anything like that, like machinery division is very much involved with pretty much everything that is damage control related. So when it's flooding, it's egging in machinery division. When it's fire, it's sonar in machinery division. Even when there's like anything related to the torpedoes, right? Like I was on the torpedo reload team on my first submarine, right? So like I got to do a lot of that stuff too. But just anything damage control related, like that's the coolest part of the job that we get to do.
Yeah, we're not a bunch of navities that show up when everything's said and done just to do a little portable.
Yeah, I'm gonna take an air sample. I'm gonna take an air sample.
Four corners.
Yeah, top, middle, bottom.
You didn't go in the bilge.
Sorry, hashtag number 150.
There you go.
I had it. Sorry. It's too easy. All right,
just
so
sitting over there just waiting for it.
will there be an EDMC tour?
So I had an answer for this question,
But
I liked the Nav's answer to his question about will there be a CO tour. So I'm keeping my options open, right? Originally, my answer to this question is, I always tell my guys, qualify as if you're gonna stay in the Navy. Because then you're not hindering yourself, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I know what I plan on doing, but there's always a possibility that things change. My plan originally was to get out after my first sea tour. And then I got married, so I went to New York, and I was going to get out after my first shore tour because it's easier to get out from shore than it is from sea. Got married, didn't want to get out and not have any prospects, live in my dad's basement or whatever. So then stuff happened in New York, and re-enlisted again for my family, but for different reasons. My mom got really sick, so We were gonna have her come live with us, and I was gonna claim her as a dependent, right? So she could get some medical treatment, maybe prolong her life a little bit. Then had kids. So like, there's always things that are gonna change. There's always possibilities that you can't foresee. So qualify as if you're gonna stay in the Navy, and then if life takes you in a different direction, then it takes you in a different direction. There's nothing wrong with people doing 6 years and getting out. There's nothing wrong with people doing 30 years and getting out, right? Or getting kicked out.
Forced out.
Forced out. So I don't know.
All right. Well, with that being said, I mean, I think you maybe have alluded to this earlier. What's your favorite kind of drill that we run on our way?
So I was talking about the fire drills. Definitely not my favorite drill.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not. Like it is fun, but
Spoke
especially
like
for
it was
me
your
now, like I don't get to put the suits on anymore. Like once you make chief, you kind of you take a step back, you let the next generation take over, and you kind of phase yourself out so that they can do the job. For me, it's flooding. Flooding drills underway. Flooding is the best because that's where my guys get to shine, right? So flooding casualties is like one of the worst casualties you can have on a submarine because the whole ocean is trying to take you down, right? So it tests a lot of the guys outside of machinery division at first, but then it's all on us. Like, we got to get propulsion back. We got to make sure that the submarine can get to the surface. And if we don't do our jobs right, then that's not going to happen. So secretively, I always hope that there's there's one thing that every mechanic wants to do, and that's open a mason root valve. I don't know if I can say that. Can I say that? Probably. We'll cut that out.
Bleep that out. Bleep that out.
There's,
Got it.
there's a certain thing that every mechanic wants to do during a flooding drill. And if a flooding casualty ever happens, there's one thing that every mechanic wants to do. And so that's what we gear towards. And for me, every drill that involves the engine room involves propulsion. I enjoy running all that stuff, but more than that, I enjoy training my guys to do that, right? Because one thing that I take great pride in is my guys in machinery division and what they do. I try to push them as hard as I can with regards to the operations and what we do underway, because I know during normal refits, during anything that we're doing, my guys are always there. They're always going to perform the best. So I train them. So if a casualty happens, we're going to perform the same way that we do right now, right? Like we're the best machinery division on the waterfront. I'll say that right now. I don't care who's watching. We are the best machinery division on the waterfront, and I would even put us up against any machinery division in the Navy. And I train my guys. If a casualty happens, we're gonna act the same way. We're gonna do the same thing that we do when the heat is off and we're just doing our regular job. When you put the fire to us, we're gonna perform the same way. You're gonna get the same output from us. So any drill that I have opportunity to put up against my guys, I will.
All right. So what's the most trouble you've ever been into that you're willing to admit?
Well, I don't hide anything. I've been in trouble a lot. I won't tell you things that I've done that would get me in trouble that I never got in trouble for.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm not gonna bring up anything that would be eye opening to anybody here. So when I was a young mechanic, the boat was going underway. I was scheduled to be stay behind on the city of Corpus Christi, and so I was starting up one of the systems underway, and that system, they went to go run their first day of drills. There was a problem with that system, and it caused what I did, the startup that I screwed up, led to the boat eventually doing an actual emergency blow underway. So it was eye-opening for me when I walked into squadron one day, and I went to the squadron GMC. I was like, "Hey, do you have anything for me and my guys?" and he said, I can't deal with you right now. The Corpus Christi did an emergency blow last night. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And I was like, why did they emergency blow? He said, whoever started up propulsion lube oil screwed it up, and they had to emergency blow last night. And without even thinking, I was like, fired. I started up propulsion lube oil. And he was seeing the squadron, he looked at me and went, you need to leave.
He goes, I want to get fired.
But yeah, I mean, I was honest about everything. Like, nothing, I never went to mass and everything like that. I never tried to cover anything up. So, like, obviously, everyone was upset with me. And I think there's an incident report written out there. Because I think when a submarine emergency blows, you have to write an incident report. So there's definitely one out there that talks about how MM2 #1 screwed up the startup and led to the entire thing going downhill. So that's probably that's the one I always tell. Like when my guy screwed something, I was like, hey, look at it this way. You never caused the entire submarine to emergency blow and nearly kill 150 people. So I mean, you're in a good spot. You know?
That's fair. That's a fair point. Now, with all that being said, if there was one thing you could change about today's Navy to benefit future sailors, what would that one thing be?
So I think one of the hardest things about being in the military in general is having to move from place to place. Like whether you have a family or not, that is extremely difficult to pick up everything that you have, move it to a new location, and start all over again. And there's a lot of stuff that actually makes that even harder. Like you get it all done and then you get set up and now you got to like do a whole bunch of stuff in the new location that is even makes it even more stressful. So you're stressed out for like 2 years planning for the move, and then once you're done with the move, and then all right, now the move is done, but now I have to set up everything here. So I think if I could do one thing that would actually I think would benefit future sailors, I would take away statewide car registration, right, and stuff like that, and do like some sort of federal licensing for people in the Navy, like driver's license and car registration. Just do it through the federal government, and like, hey, you joined the Navy. Here's your Navy license plate for your car. That way, when you move from Georgia to Washington, you don't have to re-register your car in Washington or worry about re-registering it every year across the country, which is what other people have said. They're like, well, I just keep my registration from where it was. Well, yeah, but that's a mile of a headache too. Every year you're trying to deal with a DMV that's hundreds of miles away. You can't go there and talk to them, so you got to call them. Lord knows that's not going to work. So I think if I could actually do something like that would improve the day-to-day life, or like make the career a little bit easier, because there's a lot of stuff that we do.
Move to move.
Yeah.
Life.
There's a lot of stuff that would make the Navy better, but at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to keep people in the Navy is whether or not they enjoy the people around them. That's the only thing that's ever going to keep people at whatever job they do. So, like, making it easier on their life, I think, if I could do something, like actually instill something, that's what I would do. I would change the registration policies and the licensing policies that we have to do, because every year or every 3 years, you got to pay $200 just to re-register your vehicle in a new state. And it's not your fault that you moved to the new state, right? You're serving your country. Why should you have to pay that licensing fee or that registration fee when you're just doing what Uncle Sam told you to do? Right. I think that's a pile, personally.
So what are 3 benefits of joining the Navy?
3 benefits. There are people in the Navy that you will never meet anywhere else, right? And I mean, I don't want to say that that's exclusive to the Navy. You join the Army, the Marines, Air Force, right? You're going to meet people that you would never be able to meet if you just stayed where you're at and did what you did, lived where you live. We get to meet people from everywhere. And that's what I think is the number one thing about being in the Navy, is just the people you get to meet, the different cultures that you get to experience. It opens your eyes and establishes this camaraderie that you would never get anywhere else, right? So obviously the people that you meet are probably the number one thing that I would say. The number one benefit about being in the Navy is the people that you get to meet and the people you get to work with. You'd never have that opportunity anywhere else. I joke about the Japan thing, but like you get to see places, and you can pay to go fly to Europe or fly to Asia or fly to these different places, but you get to do it for free in the military, so that's nice. But the one, it's kind of on the healthcare aspect. I had 3 kids and I never paid a dime for them, right? Like, so the healthcare beyond what you get, I would say, the healthcare that you get for your family, and that's one of the reasons that I stayed in the Navy is because not only am I going to get healthcare, but my kids are going to get healthcare, right? So like, I had 3 kids. Normally, it's thousands of dollars that you're going to pay in medical bills when you have children, going to hospitals and things like that. I didn't pay a dime. Right, and I had good experiences for all 3 of my kids in Washington while we were there. So I know it's kind of related to healthcare, but at the same time, completely separate. Like,
Out of all of your deployments that you ever had on board a submarine, what would you say is your favorite activity of all?
official or unofficial? That's what that.
Your call.
Sure. It could be anything from like having chow whatever hour to fucking MIDWATCH.
So
Crossing line ceremonies for like shellback. Or what would you say is your number one? This is my favorite activity I've ever done.
I mean, like spending time on cruise mess, number one activity underway. Every deployment, like that's where all the magic happens, right? If you're when you leave, you go on deployments. All the camaraderie, it all happens on cruise mess, because that's where you can sit down and you watch movies. My last ship, we would have a movie night, right, for the entire section. And normally, if you're not qualified submarines, right, like you don't watch movies on cruise mess. When we had our movie night, like that was a sectional, that was a camaraderie building, like type of thing that we did. So even the guys that were not qualified would sit down and watch movies, and that wasn't sanctioned anywhere, right? Like people tried to come in, and I was a first class at the time. People would come in and be like, "You can't watch movies," and I would kindly tell them to f off.
Defend your guy.
Yeah,
Defend
like
your guy.
he's here because I told him to be here. He's
Yeah.
here because we're building camaraderie. Like this is something that we're building watch team strength with, right? Like at the end of the day, the thing that's going to make you want to fight for the ship is the guy that's standing next to you, right? If you don't care for the guy standing next to you, you don't give a shit about any of the casualties that happen. Like, it's just whatever. So, yeah, cruise mess, like, doing things on cruise mess, and that's where, like, all the half-night ceremonies happen on cruise mess, all the shellback ceremonies. Inevitably, like, there's going to be some station that happens on cruise mess, but
Everything kind of crosses through. Cruise
yeah,
mess.
like that's your hub of
everything.
everything is cruise mess, right? There's not a lot of space on a submarine, so cruise mess is definitely, like, just spending time with the guys on cruise mess is going to be the favorite time, like the thing that I'm going to remember the most.
What's your favorite meal?
I'm a creature of habit, right? And I don't remember, like, I love eating, but I don't remember, like, specific meals that are, like, the greatest meals of all time, right? I will tell you, if I can have good French fries and a good chicken wheel sandwich, dude, I'm in like foot. Like like that's when I walk up to cruise mess and they're like, "Hey, we got chicken wheels and French fries."
Hands down.
Yeah, hands down. I'm sold. Like, I don't need anything else. Like, you have just made my day.
Now, are you willing to substitute those French fries for the snake eggs, as they call them, little potato balls?
Oh yeah,
Potato balls?
well,
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I will eat the little snake eggs. Is that what they're actually called?
That's what they call them.
Okay.
That's just
I do like the snake eggs, right? But there's just something about a nice French
crinkle
fry.
cut.
Yeah, like it's the texture, you know. Like,
All right, I can give you that one.
I love
I'll give you that
potatoes in general. Like, don't get me wrong, I love potatoes. When they do Thanksgiving dinner, yeah, like when they do Thanksgiving dinner, I'm getting the mashed potatoes and the sweet potatoes. Yeah.
Can't forget that.
Can't forget. But No, like it's simple, it's easy, and it's the stuff like that like really make your day when you're underway, and you get off watch, and it's just that like that small thing that you never really think about, like you never really think like, oh man, having a chicken sandwich right now would just be like put me over the top, because you're always worried about the other things that are going on when you're underway, right? Trying to maintain your rhythm and get to everything that you got to get to. So like that's just a nice break where it's the old reliable, like the burgers and all that stuff are good after a field day. Sundays are pretty sweet when you actually get them. The steak and lobster on extension day, right? Like those are always nice. But like that random day where you come up to cruise mess on a lunch and it's just like, hey, we got chicken wheels. Like, heck yeah, we got chicken wheels.
For those of you who don't know, chicken wheels, it's basically just ground chicken, cookie cutter circle, and then they bread it and fry it. It comes prepackaged, it's frozen.
Yeah, it's simple.
You buy them at Walmart,
yeah,
it's great.
Absolutely. Or the redneck chicken parm, as I say. They take the chicken wheel and they put like marinara sauce,
Parmesan cheese,
mozzarella on top.
Great.
That's good too.
Done.
Done.
Let's go.
Now, food aside, let's talk about your accomplishments. What would you say is this is the greatest accomplishment I've ever done on board a submarine?
Greatest accomplishment I've ever done on a submarine.
Could be a qualification, could be mentored person X who exceeded your rank ahead of you, whatever.
My guys. I like, as far as accomplishments go, I've done some things that I'm very proud of in the Navy. But when everything my guys do, I'm proud of my guys for. We've done impossible things. The last year and a half that I've been attached to the Maryland, my guys have done things that are probably above what we can talk about here. But they've done so much in such a little amount of time. They've exceeded all expectations of not just me, but like people outside of the command look at what my guys have done, and if I have to pick one thing that I'm the most proud of, it's my guys, my machinery division, and that's spanning from the entire time that I've been here, right? Because I've had some guys that have left, but when I've had those guys that leave and they tell me like, I wish you would have been here for longer, right? That just tells me that I'm doing the right thing, and I'm allowing them to grow. Right, like that's all it really is. Like I don't actually do anything, and any chief that's worth his salt should say that. Like I don't actually do anything. I channel my guys and I put them in the right position so that they can get the job done. And the way that my guys have gotten the job done over the last year and a half that I've been the machinery division chief on board USS Maryland, there is not, career-wise, there's nothing more that I've ever been more proud of than them.
What's the best CO you've worked with?
All right, so I'm super lucky when it comes to the COs that I've been able to work for, and I can't, saying that one CO is better than another is hard for me to do. Because they've all had different aspects that have influenced me throughout my career. Scott Minion was my captain on board the Corpus Christi when I went to captain's mast. And my career would not be the same without that man. Very intelligent, but I went to captain's mast, and this is probably something that I don't think I've ever told anybody else, but I looked at, like, he asked if I wanted to talk to him personally. I talked to him personally. And after the captain's mast was over, I thought I was going to get kicked out of the Navy. And he didn't kick me out of the Navy. He kept me in the Navy. And without him basically keeping me in the Navy, I I wouldn't be where I am now. I would have went home and probably ended up with the rest of the guys that are deadbeats at home. I probably shouldn't say that. But he changed my entire naval career by keeping me in the Navy. Mel Smith was my my last captain on board the Jimmy Carter, and that guy was a pirate. You know, he was outstanding to work for. He's the one that we flew the Jolly Roger for all the time, and despite what everyone thought when the news came out, like, we flew the Jolly Roger every time we came into port. You know, like, the the news came out, and like they showed a picture of us coming back into port one time, and like, did the Jimmy Carter sink somebody, and like all this stuff came out, and no, that's just how he did it. Every time we came into port, we would fly the Jolly Roger. But he was the kind of guy that got the job done to the point where no one could ask questions. He wrote up an award for me, my favorite award that I have. My chain of command wrote up the award, and then he changed everything. Changed everything about it. And he specifically referenced all of the Ninja Turtles in my Navy Achievement Medal write-up. Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and my favorite, obviously, Rafael. Every single one of the Ninja Turtles is referenced in my NAM write-up because he knew that meant a lot to me. He knew that I was a huge Ninja Turtle fan. And, like, so he connected with his guys on a level that I've never seen a commanding officer connect with, you know? So he was great. But there's no, I can't necessarily say that there was a best commanding officer that I've worked for, because they've all been great. And like I said, I'm very lucky. I'm very privileged for the chain of commands that I've been able to work with. So I'll leave it at that.
All right.
They're all great.
They're all good answer.
So I'm sure, you know, your time on board a submarine, you've probably been through several critiques by this point, right? What would you say is the ones you've learned the most from?
The critique I've learned the most from. My first critique. Yeah. So I was the cause of this critique. I had no idea what the hell was going on. I had been on the board the submarine for 3 weeks. And I screwed something up. But the reason I screwed something up was because someone else told me, like, this is just the way that this is the way we do it. Don't listen to that piece of paper that tells you to do this thing. Do this thing. And so I did that thing. So specifically, there's a piece of piping that we were supposed to remove before we left. So at a pre-underway, there was a piece of piping they were supposed to remove, and I left it installed, and I signed off saying that I had removed it. And that taught me a lot about just the Navy in general, right? Because they always talk about critiques with regards to, like, we're not out for a witch hunt. We're not trying to figure out what was going on. Or we're not trying to point blame and, like, do all this other stuff. We're just trying to figure out what's going on. And so 4 weeks on a submarine, going to my first critique, that was probably the steepest learning curve I've ever had. You know, like, the first time you screw up, you're always going to learn. And you never learn from things that you do right. People are programmed to remember pain, and remember hard times. So when you do something right, like, it's easy to take away a victory, but you don't learn anything from that. And being a junior guy and being, like, the focal point of that, right? Like, looking around and seeing my LPO, my chief, my division officer, the engineer, who I thought was like, oh my God, I just disappointed the engineer. Like, what the hell am I doing with my life, you know? XO, CO, and then naval reactors is there. You do a lot of self-reflection at that point, you know? Like, maybe I need to not listen to the people around me and actually do what I think is right. That's the thing that kind of I took the most from that critique, was like, all right, maybe I need to go with my gut and not listen to the people around me, like, actually do the right thing kind of stuff.
Can you explain how communications work on a submarine?
I mean, it depends on the submarine, really.
That's true.
So I will say, compared to a surface fleet, right? Drastically different compared to surface fleet, but also like submarine to submarine, it's very different. So the first submarine I was on, we had email, right? Sailor mail, and you can email back and forth between people on the shore, but it's all dependent on the situation and what you're doing underway. Because if you're doing something underway, and there's no time for it, then there's no time for it. So there could be weeks or even months where you're not talking to people, right? Like we're not transmitting email, you're not getting to talk, like you're not getting anything from home, and we're not sending anything home for people. So that makes it really hard. Whereas on a service fleet or in the service fleet, you have connectivity nearly all the time. You know, there's going to be certain times where you don't have connectivity, or certain people are allowed to communicate and others are not. But we also have, when I was on the Carter, we had things called familygrams, and that was the only line of communication that we had because Sailor Mail got removed. So familygrams was 140 characters, basically a Twitter message that you were sending from shore to see, and you were limited on the number that you could do as well. So like you would get 5 familygrams per underway or something like that. Yeah, so it was really hard. Like my second son, Jensen, he got diagnosed with autism when he was 2 years old. So they caught it early and everything. But my wife tried to send that in a familygram, and she had all these, she tried to send everything, and it just, because of the number of characters and all that stuff, like I had no idea what the hell was going on. So I got back and got the word from that after that 155-day underway that we had. That was on that underway that we found out that he was diagnosed with autism. So like my wife was back at home dealing with that on her own, which shout out to my wife. She's like the strongest person I've ever met in my life, having to deal with all the crap that I put her through. But yeah, like the communication piece from land to sea while you're on a submarine is a struggle in its own. And you just kind of have to accept it. Like, there's nothing you really do to change the way it is. Technology being what it is, we have very sophisticated forms of communication. Like, if we wanted to, we can service a boat, we can make phone calls and stuff like that. That's specific things that would lead us to do that. But we have the ability to communicate underway. It's just with our job and everything, you kind of have to sacrifice that, and that's just one of the things that makes our job unique.
If there was one thing that you could add, or maybe even just change on like how we approach things, and as far as like mental health cases and the increase of the mental health cases, people coming out saying, hey, I feel X way, Y way, I feel like I'm depressed, this, that. What would that thing be? What is it that you would do to try to better that process?
The Navy has made a lot of advances as far as like how we treat people with that have mental issues, mental health problems. We've come a long way in the 20 years that I've been in, but I think the one place where we're kind of lacking, and I don't know if there is a way to get past this, but the one thing that I've noticed is the worst is we don't have anything to reintroduce a person that's had a mental health breakdown, right? So say they have suicidal ideations or something like that. They have some sort of thing that they need to be removed from the submarine. They need to be removed from the ship, take care of themselves for a little while. And then that could be a 2-month journey, a 3-month journey, a 6-month journey, right? Once they're done with that and they're healthy again, there's no real process to reintroduce them safely into the submarine or the ship. And then I think that although we're doing a lot with helping people, getting them help with regards to mental health issues, once you reintroduce them into a situation that's like as stressful as operating a submarine, there's a lot of people that regress, and so I think that overall, like, there's no real way that you can just make a cookie cutter, like, all right, this is how you're gonna get back into it. Go ahead, right? Follow this 10-step process, and you're just gonna be fine now, right? Like, there's a certain personal aspect to every reintroduction that has to happen, and if you don't have a good support system, if you don't have a good command or a good chief or a good division that's going to help you get back into that, there's really nothing that the Navy has as far as reintroduction or recuperation from these mental health issues, right? So that's the one thing that, and like I said, I don't know if there's anything that you can do to change that.
What's your biggest fear for when you retire?
HR.
HR.
What? No.
HR.
No.
I'm gonna get fired.
No, as long as they don't care about me cussing, that's it. Like, my biggest fear when I retire, the uncertainty is always there, right? Like the military, one of the great things is it's a constant paycheck, you know, like it's always gonna be there. So that sucks. But I was thinking about this when you sent me the questions ahead of time, and honestly, I don't have a fear of getting out of the Navy with regards to the typical, like, am I going to be able to find a job? Am I going to be able to do all this? Because my wife has been with me for the last going on 16 years now, and as long as I have her, I'm gonna be fine.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. If I can't get a job that I need, she's gonna step up. She's gonna take the throne, and she's gonna do whatever we have to make sure that it all works out. Like, we got a plan and everything, but if the plan goes to shit, then as long as I have her, I'm not worried about anything.
What's the best advice that you've ever received that you would like to pass on to, like, the next generation coming up?
So I put some thought into this, and the piece of advice that I want to give is it's not military related. It's with regards to what I think is the most important thing, right? The reason that I've gotten to where I am is because I have a solid base at home. My family is very close, and behind all that is my wife, right? Like, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without her. And the day that I got married to my wife, or well, the second day I got married to my wife, on our actual wedding day, her grandfather came up to me and gave me the best advice that I've ever gotten, and it's gotten us through probably the hardest times of our lives. We've had a lot of struggles on personal levels. But when you find that person that you love, like, regardless of who it is, when you find that person that you want to dedicate your life to, you want to get married to, every night when you go, regardless of what happened in the day, you could have fought, you could have had a great day, worst day, you give that person a kiss, you tell them that you love them, and then you sleep in the same bed. Doesn't matter what happened, right? Because that's the vow that you're making to someone. When you join with someone in marriage, and this isn't supposed to be like a religious thing or anything like that. Like, when you dedicate your life to someone in marriage, that's a lifetime thing. That's thick and thin, good and bad, doesn't matter. The only way that you truly are gonna embody that is, regardless of what happened during the day, you still love each other. That's the difference between a marriage and a relationship, right? Like, you love each other, you give that person a kiss, you sleep in the same bed every night.
Basically telling them, no matter what happens, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm not going
On
anywhere.
the smallest level. On the smallest level, right? Like, I'm never going to leave you. Regardless of what happens, I'm going to be in this bed, you know? So if, taking it outside of the military, if people are watching that are not in the military, they can at least take something out of this as well.
So what do you like to do in your spare time?
nerd stuff. And I say nerd not as a like shot at anybody, right? Because it's my personal belief that everyone is a nerd.
Magic.
Absolutely, I play Magic. I have a bunch of Magic cards that are probably collecting dust. But that's not like every person is a nerd. If you like something more than the average person should, you're a nerd, right? If you spend 4 hours a day in a garage working on an engine that probably doesn't work or probably never will work, you're a nerd. You're a car nerd, right? Like if you memorize the ERAs for every pitcher that you have on your favorite baseball team, you're a baseball nerd. Like everyone has that one thing that they do that they probably shouldn't.
Look, man, up, down, left, right, A, B, start. Okay, I'm just saying.
So
you're saying I'm a video nerd.
Video nerd.
Yes. All of these things that you have, you are a nerd for.
All these cameras, these
photography, videography. No, I like doing a lot of different things. So I do tattoos in my spare time, right? So that's the thing that probably the most people know me for with regards to my stuff outside of the Navy. I like also I like doing cosplay stuff. Like I love making costumes and things like that. I haven't done a lot of it.
Costumes, wearing costumes.
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Never would've thought of that.
Halloween is like
Never
the
would've.
biggest.
Yeah.
The biggest holiday in my house is Halloween because we all get to dress up. We all get to have fun.
All right, I'm gonna have to write you down for business venture here.
Yeah.
I need some costumes made.
The only costume I've really like actually made, like I've started on a bunch of projects, but the one that I've made that I start to finish is all the way done. I made a Space Wolf costume, so Warhammer 40K. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a
Star Fox here.
Yeah, I love the Warhammer 40K universe. Like, there's a lot of stories, and that's what really grabs me in all the nerd stuff that I do is the storyline. So I love Halo and the whole storyline that they have there. But Warhammer 40K, I got introduced to that on my last boat. We were underway on the Midwatch. And a bunch of the guys were talking about Warhammer 40K, and I was like, I don't know anything about it. Start talking to me. And so those guys, knowing like I'm big into Viking lore and I'm big into all this other stuff, they were like, oh, you'd like the Space Wolves. They're basically the Vikings of the future. And I started looking into that, and sure as shit, I love everything about the Space Wolves. That's exactly what they are. It's just Vikings in the 40K universe. They come from a world called Fenris, which is an homage to Fenrir, the wolf god. Yeah. So, I fell in love with all that stuff, and I started looking into a bunch of different things, and I just made a set of armor for Halloween, and my wife got really upset one time because we did the Halloween thing, and I put that on, and we were walking around the neighborhood in Charleston, and I was kind of taking away the
spotlight
from the children. So
I mean, all you gotta do is you gotta walk up and be like, "Bring me my hammer."
All right, you're gonna have to send me those pictures.
All right,
You gotta send me those pictures. All right.
So you kind of already alluded a lot about your family. There, you said you got 3 kids. You kind of told us about one. What about the rest of your family? Just a little bit, ages, whatever.
So I have 3 kids. The oldest, Braylon, just turned 10 a week ago. Well, I don't know when this will air, but
from time of recording.
Yeah, from time of recording about a week ago, he turned 10. So he's the oldest. And my wife and I spent a lot of time trying to have kids. We spent 6 years struggling trying to have kids. So he's kind of the miracle that started the whole family for us. And it's kind of crazy to think now, like, he's 10 years old. It's insane. It feels like just yesterday that we were struggling to have babies. But and then my second son, Jensen, named after Jensen Ackles, is another nerd shout out, right?
Yep.
Jensen Ackles from Supernatural. Yep, there you
go. And Jared Padalecki.
Yep. My wife and I are huge Supernatural nerds.
Yep, I'm right here with you.
Yeah. But so he Jensen's my superhero, man. Like all the stuff that he deals with on a day-to-day basis with,
Checks and fights
with the
demons.
autism and everything. Yeah,
Fights demons.
but
does
yeah,
autism.
he's the guy that keeps me centered. You know, he's the one that on a daily basis I have to remind myself and just to not get mad, not get angry, and just kind of recenter. And there's always a different way to look at something, right? And having a kid with autism will make you, like, force you to remember that on a daily basis. There's always a different way to look at things. Josephine is my youngest. She is a unicorn, right? Not a lot of females in the Tarr lineage. My dad had 6 boys, so when we found out that we were having a girl, it was kind of
shock?
It was a shock, almost like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, kind of thing. That's what my dad said. He's like, I'll believe it when she comes out, you know. But she's everything about everything good about me and my wife, all rolled up into one, right? She's athletic, she's smart, she's a painful person to deal with on many occasions. She's very outspoken. So she gets a lot of that from my wife, despite what my wife will say. She thinks that she gets that from me. She doesn't. She gets that from her. And then obviously the rock in my family is my wife. Like that, she was put on this earth to be a mother.
True rock star.
There's not a person in this world that I look up to more. So everything that I do in my life is to try and be as good as she is. So, but don't, when you post this, right? Like, you gotta let me know so that I can tell her not to watch this part.
There's a tear. Sorry,
No, I don't want her to get a big head. Like I have a big enough head for the household, right? Like she
Talking
needs
about supernatural nerds. My eldest is Dean and my youngest is Samuel.
no.
Yep. So here we go.
How far apart are they though?
My eldest is 9. My youngest is 1.
Okay.
So 8 years.
8 years.
Who would play you in
Okay.
a movie?
So, we actually had a debate about this on the Carter. Like, someone else came up to me and was like,
Asked this
"Hey,
question?
yeah." Well, they like wrote the movie basically, right? Like they cast the entire crew before they even talked to me about it.
haven't
So
gone that
they said that Sean Penn would be the person that played me, and I was like, okay. And then there was an egg hanger on my last boat that said he thought I was Fred Durst. Like that the reason that Fred Durst like disappeared when he did is
joined
because
the
he
Navy.
joined the Navy,
Yeah.
and I'm actually Fred Durst posing as a nuclear
my
mechanic.
God.
So
That's funny. That's a funny one.
but if I had like, this is me just like, if I had to pick someone to play me in a movie, I would pick Chris Pratt because
Durst.
I think, yeah, he's
Pratt.
funny. I feel like he's down to earth, you know, and like, I guess inevitably, like, if you're picking someone to play you in a movie, like, I feel like you gotta pick someone that you think you would be friends with, right? Like, and I think that if Chris Pratt met me, he would be like, yeah, that's the kind of guy I want to hang out with, you know, obviously. So
All right, I can see that.
It was Conan O'Brien.
Conan
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 O'Brien.
O'Brien. It's a big
I
look.
can see that. I can see that one.
Was it with or without the mustache?
I think it
though?
was without the mustache. I just
I can
grabbed
see
one
that.
and I brought like Conan O'Brien. Like, that's him.
I could see it.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
definitely see it. Absolutely.
Now that we got that out the way, out of all the uniforms you've seen in your time since you've been active duty, what would you say is the best one?
The Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash's?
Yeah, absolutely. The Johnny Cash. So they went away. This was early 2000s.
2006, I believe, 2007.
6 or 7, yeah.
I remember my sister wore. She's in 2005.
Yeah, so they used to have dress whites, dress blues, and then working whites, or working blues, working whites, or summer whites, winter blues, I think is what they called them.
Same.
But yeah, it was It was a black button-up shirt. You had your rating badge on the side, and then you had a tie, and you could wear the Dixie cup, or you could wear the Garrison cap or the piss cutter, right? And by far my favorite uniform of all time was the Johnny Cash. C2 Rhodes was my RDC, like the main RDC that I had, and he looked super sharp in his Johnny Cash uniform, and he praised that, hammered us day in and day out. Like, all the other uniforms were big, but he hammered us. If we had anything wrong with us in our Johnny Cash uniforms, he would smash us. We'd get IT'd. Like, that was, and that just instilled this love of that uniform from day one. And if there's one uniform that I could bring back, it'd be the Johnny Cash uniform. Absolutely.
I could get down with that. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
They look really
And
nice.
I mean, it's the only uniform as enlisted person that we wore a tie with, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you just looked sharp.
I'm down for wearing a tie. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I was the fastest double Windsor in Division 144, so, like, obviously I love that.
How has your leadership style changed throughout the years?
It's hard to, like, really define any, like, specific thing that's changed leadership wise for me over the years, because any person that I interact with is going to change my leadership style. My kids are the biggest thing that have changed my leadership style. I used to be very, very quick, very angry a lot. My wife came in and kind of settled me down a little bit, but the kids have really calmed me down more than anything. And they don't see this a lot because I'm still very short-tempered with them. I shouldn't be. Yeah.
That's parent life.
But because of them, I'm a better chief because I can deal with things that would normally make people angry, and it just rolls right off. And they're the ones that have helped me get to that point. I'm much more calm when it comes to adversity or things changing, bad things happening, things not going in accordance to plan and stuff like that. Like, they have given me that, and I think that's the thing that's changed the most as far as, like, young MM3 to MMC nowadays is I'm very less aggressive when it comes to reacting to things. So,
Who had the biggest impact on you in your career, and what would you say to them if they walked through the door right now?
Owen Hooper, thanks. Technical difficulties have led me to the point where I don't care anymore.
He says thank you for helping
Yeah.
on his career.
It's good to know that
He said he loves you.
Yeah.
4 batteries lasted 3 hours. That's good to know.
It's not bad, yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good information.
It's
for you.
imperative for you to understand
I'm-
your equipment.
I'm writing all this down. All right. Select any submarine, present or past, that you want to dedicate this episode to.
So, I have a submarine that's meant a lot to me since my time on the Carter, and there's things that we did that have led me to loving this submarine, and I'm gonna give this to you guys. You can keep this, decorate whatever you want as far as, like, your show is concerned and all that stuff. It's a placard that came from a sub ball, but this side, it's for the USS Wahoo. So USS Wahoo is a submarine that means a lot to me. She sits 213 feet below the top of the ocean. So she went down October 11th in 1943. Mush Morton was her captain, but she was definitely a war fighter, and Mush Morton had a lot to do with that. Went down in the Sea of Japan. Didn't know for the longest time where she was. It was actually a joint effort between a bunch of different countries that actually found and salvaged the wreckage from the USS Wahoo. And I want to say that was done back in like 2006 or 2007. They found where she was. They used a bunch of different documents from the Japanese ports and reports from World War II after they found the wreckage. But she means a lot to me. And if I could pick one submarine, if there is going to be an EDM, or if there's ever anything that would absolutely solidify an EDMC tour, if the USS Wahoo is one of the boats that they're bringing back the namesake for, if they told me right now, hey, you're going to go be the EDMC on the USS Wahoo, I would take that job in a heartbeat. Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
With knowing that, what would you say is your favorite submarine movie?
So, obviously, every submariner on the planet loves one movie, and I don't think I even need to say the movie name, but Down Periscope is like the submarine movie that everyone looks at and they're like, "That's just us.
That's submarines.
That's us," you know. So most accurate submarine movie, I would say Down Periscope. But my favorite submarine movie is actually U-571. And it's not like I love World War II and I love all the aspects of World War II. That was a highlight of the submarine community as far as like proving what we can overcome, right? Because World War II happened and there was a lot of lives lost in the submarine community once World War II started. But as World War II went on, the submarine community really like overcame. They figured out what they had to do in order to survive, and they did it. And that's what I love about submarines in World War II. But U-571, Harvey Keitel's character as the chief of the boat in U-571 is the kind of like the pillar of what I think a chief should be. You know, like he was there, he gave the recommendations to the officers, but he also commanded his men. And so like he embodied what I think a chief should be. And that's kind of why I love that movie as much as I do, is because of Harvey Keitel's character in there.
Well, thank you for joining us. Any last words before we wrap this up?
The only thing I'll tell everybody, your belief system, your beliefs are stronger than you could ever know. So there was, what's the guy's name?
Womp womp.
Hold on. We'll cut. Come back to this. Because now I'm fucking. Now I don't remember his name. I'm putting all our mistakes in there. I don't care. You fast forward. Alright.
Do it again.
Last words.
What?
Last words.
you have?
Any last words you'd like to say? Again.
Again. So yeah, the only thing I'll tell everybody is Pygmalion. Your belief system has more, or your beliefs in yourself, you have more power with that than you could ever imagine. The Pygmalion effect is an effect that's caused by basically you believing in something so much that it manifests itself to be real. So Pygmalion was a sculptor back in the Greek-Roman times, created a sculpture of Galatea. So Galatea was a sculpture that he made and he fell in love with. And every night he prayed to Aphrodite to bring Galatea to life. And the way that the myth goes is that he prayed and he believed so much that if he loved Galatea, that Aphrodite would bring her to life and they could live happily ever after. And in the myth, Pygmalion goes to a party, comes home, and that night he touches Galatea, and her skin, instead of feeling the cold stone, he feels the warmth of a woman, right? Put that into the actual scientific Pygmalion effect. They've done studies where welding classes, they tell a welding instructor, hey, these 5 people tested very highly, they're going to do great in your class. These 5 people tested very low, they're going to do terrible in your class. They never actually took a test, never actually screened anyone. They took randomly generated names from the roster. But at the end of the course, those 5 randomly generated names would be at the top, and the 5 randomly generated names that were going to be at the bottom were at the bottom. And that's all based off just the belief that the instructor had going into the class. And so every decision they made, conscious and subconscious, caused that effect or caused that belief to manifest as a reality. When you look at any type of belief system out there, I'm not telling you should be religious or not be religious. I don't give anything about that. Believe in something. And if you believe in something enough, it will manifest itself to be real. At the end of the day, the only person that controls your happiness is you. If you believe that you're having a terrible day, if you believe that life is out to get you, then guess what? It's out to get you. But if you believe that you are happy, then everything that happens is going to manifest itself for you to be happy, right? If you look at something and you're saying, oh man, I'm never going to be happy unless I'm with this one person, or I'm never going to be happy unless I have this person to share my life with. I'm never going to be happy unless I have this amount of money. I'm never going to be happy unless I have this job. Guess what? That's what's going to manifest to be real. But if you can take a step back and look at what you have, and you can believe that where you're at, it's okay for you to be happy, then you will be happy. Everything that happens is going to manifest itself to be real. And if you actually believe in yourself and you believe that you are supposed to be happy, then you'll be happy. Right? Don't let life beat you. Life will always win. Put in the good fight. So that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, again, appreciate you for coming in. Appreciate you for giving us your time.
And thanks for the whiskey.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me.
More?
More?
I can't drink no more. I'll be fucking.
Yeah,
I'll be
like,
messed up.
Yeah.